There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the Oklahoma Sooners in 2024, but what are the biggest ones?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. And the show is at Locked On Sooners. Make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. Over on YouTube, hit that like, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. And Josh, we're going to talk optimistically here today. We're going to get into some of the biggest reasons why we're optimistic about the Oklahoma Sooners. And I'm going to let you lead it off with us on today's episode of Locked On Sooners. So what is one of the biggest reasons why we should be optimistic about the Oklahoma Sooners in 2024?
Because Oklahoma's better defensively. They're more talented. They got return decisions, all of that together. You know, I mean, you could single those out if you wanted to and probably have a different discussion on each, but big umbrella, because Oklahoma is officially, finally, at long last, we've been waiting, talking about this for so long. Finally, Oklahoma is better defensively. That's the biggest reason for optimism. And there's, again, a number of reasons why that could or should be the case for Oklahoma. And it of course, starts with the head football coach in year 3. This is that moment to really turn the corner. And, you go back and you look at his fingerprints and the imprints that he left behind at Clemson, or just the path that he and Dabo Swinney and company took at Clemson. And it was year 3 when all of a sudden Clemson was kind of in all of the key metrics, or close to all of the key metrics. Top 5, number 1 defense nationally. The numbers bore it out that Clemson was officially elite defensively. So the head coach, right? I mean, this is the guy that you tap to come in here and, because of his defensive acumen, fix this thing. And am I trying to tell you that Oklahoma's a top 5 defense in 24? I hope so. I don't think it's totally impossible that could happen for Oklahoma, but I'll slow my roll just a little bit and say Oklahoma vastly improved defensively, though, and that's the biggest reason for optimism.
And I think specifically, you can look to the defensive interior at how much they have improved in that one position group in general. You got Dejon Terry to come back. You got commitments from and signings from David Stone and Jaden Jackson. You brought in Dominic Williams through the transfer portal. So you've significantly improved the interior of your defensive line. And that's the area that Brent Venables has been able to thrive with, dating back to his days with the Oklahoma Sooners as the defensive coordinator. When he's been really, really good at defensive tackle, his defenses have been really, really good. Same goes for Clemson. When they've been really, really good up the middle, they've been really, really good defensively. And up the middle, I know that's a phrase that a lot of times we use in baseball terms where you're talking about catcher, pitcher, shortstop, center field. Well, up the middle defensively for the Oklahoma Sooners, they've got maybe some of the best players at their positions in the country, with Dominic Williams and Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman up the middle. And I think that that's going to force teams to have to play wide. And what we saw happen last year is guys like Gentry Williams and Woody Washington, Kendall Dolby, did a really, really good job on the perimeters at defensive back, taking things away from wide receivers. If it was in the screen game, the bubble game, playing the run well. Ethan Downs was a dude that did a really, really nice job setting the edge and forcing the run game to get wider than it wants to be because of his ability to play the run. So being really, really good up the middle, especially at defensive tackle, is going to be huge for this team, because it's just going to create so much more so many more difficulties for opposing offenses. You're not going to be able to just run straight down the middle on Oklahoma, because not only do they have Dominic Williams, but they also have Dejon Terry. They can go to a David Stone and a Jaden Jackson. Grayson Halton is emerging. He's up over 300 pounds now. So there's size and legit size up the middle, and guys that can play. And I think it's going to be a huge factor for him this year. I think another reason that I'm really, really optimistic is because I'm so high on this wide receiver group. I don't know everybody is. That's not breaking news. This wide receiver group is going to be really, really good. But when you go down the list of dudes who are going to make an impact in 2024 at wide receiver, the list is pretty long. And it's a bunch of guys that could go and play and start at a number of Power 4 schools across the country. You're talking about Deion Burks, who showed out in a big, big way. I know that there were quote unquote busted coverages on those plays, but a player like that, he busts coverage. That's what a guy with his speed, his athleticism, his agility does, is he makes you think that, hey, I'm just running a simple slant route, and then boom, he's up the seam before you even know what happens because of his quickness and his speed. So yes, I'm excited about him. I'm pumped. I'm hyped about what Deion Burks is going to bring to this offense this year. And then you go to a guy like Nick Anderson, who had a huge season last year and is probably going to have another big year this year, especially when you consider there's a guy like Deion Burks that can take the top off of a defense and he's going to create gravity towards him. We talk about that, like guys that draw the attention from opposing defenses. Deion Burks is going to create that. Drake Stoops did it last year, and Nick Anderson thrived because of it. And then you got Jalil Farouk, you got Jaden Gibson, you've got Andrew Anthony that'll be back at some point, Brennan Thompson, Jaquays Petaway, and that doesn't even include the true freshman group. I mean, this wide receiver group is as deep as any in the country, and it's going to have a big, big impact this season.
And hopefully, in some regard, this remains to be seen, and how explosive Oklahoma can be, at this position group. But if Devon Mitchell, Bauer Sharp, Jake Roberts helps you out, I know we're talking wide receivers, but if those guys can help you out and be legitimate pass catchers, reliable, legitimate pass catchers, then all of a sudden, all of that weaponry that you're talking about at wide receiver gets all the more dangerous when you have to think about a tight end, in those seam routes and in the middle of the field. So I'm with you. I love the pass catchers. When you think about Deion Burks and Nick Anderson and on and on and on, there's a bunch of guys that can go catch the football and do something after the fact with it. But defensively, if I can rewind just for a moment, star power at all levels of the defense. And when is the last time that we could really confidently say that about Oklahoma's defense, where we think Dominic Williams a star, and that's just one name, right? We'll see about our Mason Thomas and Ethan Downs outside, and PJ Adebaware if he takes a step forward, and Dejon. I mean, the list goes on, right, of defensive linemen that could impact things. But let's just go with Dominic Williams, right? Danny Stutzman, bona fide star at linebacker, arguably one of the nation's finest. Billy Bowman, again, Jim Thorpe Award candidate at safety for Oklahoma. So legitimate star power candidates at each level of the defense. It's been a long time since Oklahoma could boast that.
It's very true. And you're seeing guys emerge as well. The Lewis Carters, the Samuel Omasigos, the Kip Lewises. You're seeing Robert Spears Jennings, like all these guys that Brent Venables and his staff have had time with or recruited. They're starting to emerge and take on roles. They're taking on playing time. And that's what you want to see. You want to see that development, and that development is going to be a positive for Oklahoma. They didn't lose a ton of guys to the transfer portal this last offseason, where a lot of the country, they're losing guys that want to go start somewhere. Oklahoma's holding on to those guys because they bought into the vision and they bought into the process that Brent Venables and the defensive staff have laid out. And that's as much of a reason to be optimistic as anything, is that they're keeping that depth chart together and adding to it. And that's the exciting part, is that the depth chart is getting better year by year. And then they're using the transfer portal to add and supplement and find impact players for a 1 year time. And they're just constantly getting better at recruiting defensively. And it's a far cry from where things were in the previous regime. And it's exciting to see what's going to happen with this defense. Another reason to be optimistic, well, the special teams can't get much worse than what it was in 2023. It can get better, but how much better can it get? Doug Deacon is going to try to figure that out for the Oklahoma Sooners coming up. We're going to talk about it on Locked On Sooners.
It is winner take all time in the NBA and in the NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. The numbers that I like: college football for Oklahoma. Give me those 9.5 points for Oklahoma versus Texas. Give me that over for Oklahoma on the 7.5 on the win total. Give me both of them. I love them. I'm ready to run away and hide on them. Minus 105, by the way, on that over 7.5 wins for Oklahoma. I love it. That's with FanDuel.com/locked-on, where you can make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Yesterday, we talked about how the running back room was just a little bit disjointed. It never seemed to have a lot of cohesion or chemistry or much direction. Some of it due to injury, some of it due to poor performance at times. Special teams is another unit that just never seemed to have great direction, great cohesion, and it never really improved through that first half of the season. The best part of it was arguably your punter, Luke Elzinga. Once he finally got the job and earned that job midway through the season, the punting game got a whole lot better. Well, Doug Deacon, coming over from San Diego State, tasked with improving a bottom third special teams unit from 2023. And this is a dude that has helped run one of the best special teams units in the country over the last several years. So how important, Josh, is it that Oklahoma improves their special teams unit moving forward?
Oh, I think it's pivotal. Look, I subscribe to the theory that the third phase is big time important. And I get that, punting is winning is not a tonic for, all football remedies, but or all football issues. It's not the perfect remedy, but I'd like to have a great punter. I'd like to be able to pin people deep and corner kick it and have guys that take pride in going and covering a punt and downing it inside the 10, inside the 5. And I'd like to be aggressive in the punt return game here and there and have guys that want to go crack that explosive play in the punt return game or go block a punt, on and on and on, right? Obviously, we all understand the importance of having somebody that when it's time to go tie a football game up from 45 yards out or in, you feel confident they're going to tie it up or go win the game for you. So all of this stuff matters, but just across the board, holistically, all of it, yeah, I want to see Oklahoma make big time strides. I feel the great football teams at all levels, whether we're talking high school football, SEC football, or in the National Football League, teams that win championships, I think in a lot of instances, typically don't stink on special teams. They're usually pretty doggone good at it.
Yeah, you have to be at least breaking even on special teams. You can't have a special teams unit that is basically a net negative. And that's kind of what it was last year. When you have your kicker missing 6 field goals, especially in that Bedlam game where you lose by 3 and he misses 1, missed 2 against UCF, it's not good enough. When you have a punt returner who seemed to regress in his awareness and his confidence and just that ability to read the ball in the air, that's not good enough. And, a guy like Jalil Farouk was a good kick returner, but he even had a fumble against Tulsa last year. And then again, the kick return game was just inconsistent. And which is going to be because of the kickoff rules. You're not going to get a lot of opportunities, but when you get those opportunities, you got to have to make something happen with them. The punt return game, it was not good. And, I'm rooting for Gavin Freeman. I think he's going to have a chance to be a big time impact player for Oklahoma State, but it's got to be better than that. And you got to have a guy that's got the confidence and got the kind of that swagger almost to feel like, hey, when I get the ball, I'm going to make something happen with it and not forcing it. You know what I mean? Not feeling like he has to force something to happen, lets the game come to him. And when he gets that seam, he's able to make something. Marvin Mims, I think, was a great example of a guy that never really forced the issue, but there was a time or two when that opportunity arose and he was able to make a big play happen in the return game. And that's really what you need. It doesn't have to be every single week. Obviously, we'd love it for it to be every single week. That's the expectation, is you make a big play on the punt return. But if you just hit one in a big game where, a big punt return can flip the field and put you into scoring position, that is so huge. You talked about the punting. Under Brent Venables, punting has become even more important, because with that defense, he's able to play the field position game a little bit more. He's able to be like, you know what? We didn't get anything out of this offensive drive. That's cool. I feel comfortable punting the ball away and letting my defense get the ball back for me. Under the previous regime, they may not have felt as comfortable punting the ball away, because that meant that the defense was about to be on the field for a 8-play, 80-yard, touchdown drive. No, Brent Venables, and he's an aggressive guy on fourth down. He's going to go for it when given the opportunity, but I feel like he feels more comfortable being able to punt the ball away and trying to, and forcing the opposing offense to go and march the field on him. And that's a great asset to have. And the fact that Luke Elzinga was good at the end of last year and you got him back for this year, I think that is a key component to how Oklahoma special teams is going to improve in 2024.
Well, one thing I feel is true. At times under Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma didn't really care to try to be aggressive in certain spots, on the special teams, whether that was, punt return, kick return, as you mentioned, is challenging for anybody really to be particularly explosive there anymore. But in the punt return game, I like to try to go attack in that area of the football game. I know, at times you're thinking, okay, well, hey, we got Baker Mayfield, we got Kyler Murray. You hope this year we're saying, hey, we got Jackson Arnold, that, let's not make a mistake in special teams, muff a punt, this, that, or the other, and all of a sudden take an opportunity of possession of the football away from Jackson Arnold. So I get that line of thinking, but I still want to be aggressive. And so in some ways, the alarming thing for Oklahoma last season and the last couple of years, John, is I don't believe that Brent Venables shares that philosophy of not taking chances in the special teams department. So he knows that clearly under Jay Nunez, they just weren't good enough the last couple of years, and last season in particular. So enter Doug Deacon. They've made the change, and let's see what this year brings with Doug Deacon, who's considered a very good special teams mind. And don't kid yourself. Look, I look up and see in the SP Plus rankings, Oklahoma's rated in terms of efficiency, the SP Plus ranking from ESPN, 95th is what they're projected in special teams. Don't kid yourself and think that that's not a number that Brent Venables doesn't care a lot about. He wants that to radically improve.
Because you cannot completely neglect one phase of your team. You just can't. And you mentioned it, if you want to win championships, you got to be pretty good in all three phases. And special teams is one of those areas that they have to get much better at, and they got to get much better in a hurry, because it's everything matters more. It all means more. And special teams play is going to mean so much more in the SEC. We've seen it. If you watch SEC football, how many times does a special teams play turn the tide of a football game in the SEC? In those tight battles, special teams matters. And it's going to come down to who's going to have the better special teams unit a lot of times in these close ball games. And Oklahoma's going to be in some close ball games, especially in this season. If that special teams unit is able to make a significant step in the right direction and say now they're top 50 in efficiency, I think that goes a long way to helping Oklahoma win games. If they were top 50 last year, I don't think that they lose to Kansas and Oklahoma State, but your special teams units weren't good enough in those games, as other parts of your team weren't good enough at times also. But when your special teams is bad, it kind of shows up as well. A couple teams that weren't bad this on a Thursday: baseball, softball. The Diamond Sports continue to roll. We're going to discuss that and all that implies coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Just because the Oklahoma City Thunder are done doesn't mean there's not something that you can go check out in the Oklahoma City area, and Gametime is the place to go find your favorite tickets to shows, concerts, sports. You got the Oklahoma City Dodgers underway in the summertime. Now's the time if you want to get out and go watch some baseball. Like, the weather is fairly nice right now. Don't wait till July or August to get out to the ballpark and go watch some Oklahoma City Dodgers. No, get in there right now, and Game Time is the place to do it. If you're looking for something that maybe, hey, I want to take my wife to a show, Mamma Mia's in town right now. The musical, it's world renowned. People love it. Go check it out. Mamma Mia, it's available. You can go see it right now at the Civic Center Music Hall, and Game Time has got all the best seats, best prices available for you. You can get last minute deals over at Game Time. Zone deals where you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. My favorite feature is the seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee is fantastic as well. If you find a price that's better somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your ticket is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Diamond Sports continue to cruise for the Oklahoma Sooners in the postseason. We're going to start chronologically here because OU baseball played probably the wildest game anybody's ever seen, and they won. They beat Kansas 7-5 in a game where the Oklahoma Sooners had as many errors as they had runs scored. Now, you'd have to go back a long, long way to maybe find, or you might never find a game where somebody scored as many errors or had as many runs as they did errors and had that many runs. Like, there might be a 1-0 game where a team had one error, but you're not finding many games where you had more than 5 runs scored and more than 5 errors in a win. That's just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and typically it's dubious history. I mean, you rack up that number of errors. Oklahoma had 7 errors, 7 versus Kansas. Oklahoma pitchers issued 7 walks versus Kansas and had those 7 errors. And wait for it, they won the ball game 7-5. So amazing what this team is doing. They just find ways to win. You know, they just find ways to win, and they believe right now that they should win. So Kansas probably, you know, that third inning, I think it was, when Kyson got out of the bases loaded jam, and boom, 97-mile-per-hour fastball right down dead red, hard to the plate, got him looking on a 12 pitch at bat. So, I mean, there was a ton of pitches fouled off, and it was a big-time battle, and Kyson Witherspoon got out of it. That was just enough of the turning point. Kansas left enough meat on that bone for Oklahoma in this offense, John. The way that they attack opponents, 14 more hits for OU in this one. So as many errors and all these things that didn't go quite right. The approach at the plate for Oklahoma, the way these hitters are going, man, they can really swing the sticks.
Yeah, and Carter Campbell gives them a great relief appearance, goes 3 innings, just allows 1 walk in the 10 batters he faced, and they absolutely needed that. Kyson was good in moments, but not necessarily himself in the first few innings of the game. Malachi comes in, gets the save, 1 inning down there at the end, comes in kind of in a bit of a jam. I mean, TCU had some runners on base and we're threatening. I think the tying run was on base at one point in time in the 9th inning, but Oklahoma comes through and gets the big win. Big time performances at the plate. Once again, Jackson Willits has 2 hits, 2 RBI. Michael Snyder has 2 hits as well. Easton Carmichael with 2 hits. Scott Mudler with 2 hits. And so they're getting contributions from everybody up and down the lineup. The other day, Jackson Nicholas was the big time player for him against TCU. And then today you get other guys contributing, and it's helping Oklahoma continue to roll in the Big 12 tournament.
Should have been Jackson Nicholas a couple of times in this game. He got robbed a home run, and there was another nice defensive play made on it too, but he finally got one late. Jackson Willits had that big 2-run home run to right center on an 0-2 count, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's pretty remarkable.
Well, I was going to say, and in the first inning, he had the fielder's choice to move the runner from second to third for Easton Carmichael's sacrifice fly. So a really, really good game from your freshman, all freshman Big 12 player.
Yeah, he got a chance to be really, really, really good because he got off to such a slow start, which is not, totally shocking for a true freshman, but it was really not a good offensive start at the plate this season for Jackson Willits. And now all of a sudden, I think that light bulb, as the saying goes, right? You're no longer a freshman. Now you're a sophomore. I think that sort of applies for Jackson Willits because he started and played so much this year. And offensively, he's just looking more and more comfortable, which makes Oklahoma incredibly, incredibly dangerous the better he gets. This is a game that, again, OU won without Madron in the lineup. So now you're catbird seating it. And we'll see if, obviously, you can go advance to the Big 12 championship on Saturday. They'll play, again at noon 30.
One team that's also feeling really, really comfortable at the plate, that's the Oklahoma Sooners softball team. Run rules the Florida State Seminoles in game 1 of the Super Regionals, 11-3. This was a game that had lots of power, lots of patience at the plate. Alyssa Brito hits two home runs. Kinsey Hansen has one. Tiara Jennings got the scoring going with her home run, moving into third all time in career home runs with her 22nd of the season. Just again, putting together another phenomenal season. It was not a characteristic start for Kelly Maxwell, who was a little bit erratic with her control, but did just enough to keep Florida State at bay, a good Florida State offense at bay. And then the Oklahoma Sooners offense just took over from there.
And again, Oklahoma, after, building the early 2-0 lead, they give it back and then boom, promptly respond. And that has happened a lot recently for Oklahoma. Ever since that Sunday final game versus Oklahoma State in that series, OU, they got punched in the mouth by the Cowgirls. But that Sunday game, Oklahoma said, you know what, enough's enough already. And now we're seeing Oklahoma look like Oklahoma in those moments where you always think, oh, how are they going to respond from this? And then, boom, the offense responds the way that it has responded. So great start. Look, you got to go win the next one. I get all that. But the body language, the run rule type victory that Oklahoma had, I think this Super Regional is over. I don't see Florida State winning the next two. I don't think they're going to get one. I think Oklahoma's sweeping its way in this Super Regional off to the Women's College World Series. And I'll tell you this, I really like their setup versus either Duke or Missouri in the first game of the Women's College World Series. Now, after that, you're thinking about probably Tennessee or UCLA, the winner there. That'll be incredibly challenging as you project forward in a potential winner's bracket game. But all of a sudden, John, this team's starting to really click at the right time.
Yeah, back to Brito for a second. It was her first home run since April 26th against UCF. So she went nearly a month without a home run, and it felt like that long as we watched. But she came through in a big way, 3 for 3, 3 RBIs, 2 home runs, and the Oklahoma Sooners drew 8 walks, including 4 in the 5th inning, the bottom of the 5th inning, to walk it off and get that run rule win. But 7 different players had a walk, 8 different players had a hit. So again, up and down the lineup, Oklahoma's getting contributions from everybody. Got to imagine that in game 2, you're going to see Nicole May get the start. That was the way it went last weekend. Nicole May got 2 starts in the regional round against Cleveland State and then against Oregon. I imagine that that Patty Gasso and Jennifer Rocha are going to go back to Nicole May after she pitched so well a weekend ago, but it wouldn't also surprise me to see him go with Kirsten Deal as well. So it's going to be fascinating to see that matchup, but I think you're right, man. The way that they looked tonight and the way that they played, that's the dominant performance that we'd kind of been looking for for some time this year. It was all clicking for the Sooners offensively in that game. Any other thoughts, parting thoughts, baseball, softball, football, hoops, anything else you want to mention here, Josh?
Yeah, Tiara's red stinking hot. At one point, they said she had 4 home runs out of her last 10 plate appearances. So that's, come on, that's insane to be doing that. I thought also Alina Torres, it was important what she did. I thought that was an important development in this game. So look, I like the way that Oklahoma softball is going right now. Yeah,
there's a lot to like about it, and especially getting Tiara Jennings going. She she's built for the postseason. I mean, if there's a player that you can count on and rely upon in the postseason, it's Tiara. She's just phenomenal. It's dating back to Oklahoma State. She's got 4 home runs. That Sunday affair against Oklahoma State, she's got 3 so far in the NCAA tournament this year, making a strong case to be most outstanding player of the tournament early on so far. But hey, Alyssa Brito, she's getting going as well. So cannot wait to see what happens in the Friday evening affair. It's 7 p.m. I have not seen a broadcast station. Have you seen that, Josh, yet?
No, and it was not announced before the Super Regional got started. So I would imagine we'll know in short order. Let's check the socials though before we bid everybody adieu. Maybe it's gotten posted out there. It certainly had not. ESPN2. ESPN2 just released it a little while ago.
25 minutes ago, they put the message out there as we record on Thursday night. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Cannot wait to break down more Oklahoma Sooner softball with you coming up this weekend. Follow Josh on Twitter at JoshOnRef, myself at John9Williams. Check out Josh Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on the KRF Sports app. You can also read my work covering the Sooners over at thesoonerswire.com. But until next time, he's Josh. I'm John. Boomer Sooner.